Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. A few days ago I made a video about Euphrates River and also Galilee Sea, and I mentioned in that video that Euphrates River is not mentioned in the Bible. Well, the thing that I want to clarify here is that I did not mean Euphrates River was not mentioned in the Bible literally. What I meant by that is that the Euphrates River will not play a huge role in the sense of end of time. So the emphasis is not given there in the Bible. That's what I meant. But the Sea of Galilee, it has been mentioned in the Bible in such a way, it glorifies that Sea of Galilee in such a way that you cannot ignore. This video, I want to give you some update about the Galilee Sea, because as we know, the river Galilee, it will dry up. Also, the Euphrates River will dry up. Euphrates River, when we say dry up, we do not mean that the water will be gone completely, because the hadith said that it will give up gold, it will reveal gold. Gold can be revealed when water is still there. So people say hadith is talking about Euphrates River, oh, look at the river, it has no water, so the end of time, tada, is here. That is not true. The only interpretation for that, when you do not see water in that river, in Euphrates River, is that it is still not perhaps time for the end of time. It has nothing to do, in other words, with the revealing of the gold. The gold will come out when Allah Azza wa Jal will decree. So that's, I hope, is very, very clear. But the Galilee Sea, it will be dried up. It will dry up when we know that Yajuj and Majuj will be out. They will drink. The first group of them will drink from the Tiberias lake, which is the Galilee Sea, and the last group will come and say, there used to be water here, what happened to the water? The water is completely gone. Few things I want to share with you about the Euphrates River, but before I do that, I want to play this video of Imam Hussein, and inshallah we'll make a few more comments.
Galilee, yes, and we will know that because the water in the Sea of Galilee would have dried up. That is the time when these events are now going to take place. The advent of Imam Mahdi, Ad-Dajjal appearing in a day which is like our day, so we'll see him as a Jew, etc.
So basically, as he said, by the way, I do not agree with Imam Hussein's interpretation of a lot of things when it comes to Islamic eschatology. But there are things that we cannot ignore, we cannot deny. And these things are mentioned in a hadith very, very clearly. Number one is that the Sea of Galilee, it will dry up. Okay, it will dry up. And this is what the hadith is indicating. When Euphrates River, it will not dry up necessarily for the gold to be revealed. It can dry up. I'm not saying it cannot or it will not, Allahu Alam. But for the gold to be revealed, it is not a condition that the water will dry up. But the Sea of Galilee, as we all know, the river will lose its water. And I will mention to you before I end this video about some recent developments of the Sea of Galilee and its water level.
And the Son of Mary coming down. I can say that I expect the Sea of Galilee to dry up in about 50 years. Because it is when the water in the Sea of Galilee dries up that the Son of Mary will come back down. Go and read.
Okay, so Son of Mary, Jesus, Isa al-Islam, he's coming back to the sea and coming back to earth, not to the sea, but coming back on earth, because the Galilee Sea is dried up. It has a significance in terms of biblical prophecy. How? The river of Galilee, the Sea of Galilee, is the sea where this ancient Roman, the Jews, their culture flourished. The Sea of Galilee is the sea where Jesus, Isa al-Islam, had his disciples. Again, according to the Bible, this is biblical prophecy. His teachings, his activities were surrounded or were limited in that particular region. And that happened very often. You will find rarely any of Jesus, Isa al-Islam teachings in the Bible that were preached outside the vicinity of this river, in other words. So when the river dries up, if we take that Bibles, let's play devil's advocate and let's say we believe in the Bible in this part, then it makes all the sense that Isa al-Islam, Jesus, his second coming will take place when this river will lose its water, because Isa alayhi salam, for him this river was very, very significant in his earthly life. So let's take a listen more.
Read your Sahih Muslim. It is at that time, and go and notice the water level in the Sea of Galilee now. It is lower than it has ever been before in history, and so the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is now moving to center stage. If I say 50 years, and if I say I can be wrong, at least I'm giving you a wake-up call.
Okay, so I mentioned in my other video, the 50 years that he's mentioning is not something I agree with. Well, he said it is not a big deal, because he said really the main point here is that I'm giving you a wake-up call. Okay, even if we take that 50 years and the river dries up, it is not enough. In other words, for Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, to come down on earth, it is not enough that Galilee Sea is drying up the way it is right now. Why? Because there are other factors will play a big role in the coming of Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, the coming of the end of time. So for this sea to dry up, dear brothers and sisters, one thing we will also find out at the same time, or another thing that must happen, is worldwide injustice. When you see worldwide injustice, when you see people are not being able to eat, because this river, it has a lot of significance. Not only just that it is a river, but this is a river where Israel, believe it or not, they believe their economy depends on this sea. Even though the water from Galilee Sea, you cannot drink it, it is not drinkable, nevertheless Israel pinned their hope on this sea, saying that if this sea is dried up, if this sea is losing water, it would mean an economic disaster for Israel. In other words, worldwide injustice, oppression, no food, nothing, no, people will be desperate to survive. All of these things you will see, and at the same time you see the Sea of Galilee is drying up. So there are a lot of other things that will play a major role when it comes to the coming of the end of time. Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, his coming back, the coming of the Mahdi and Dajjal. So waiting for 50 years, 100 years or 20 years is not going to suffice. There are a lot of other things that we have to dig deep and see if those things are happening simultaneously with the drying up of the Galilee Sea.
A wake-up call that you're living in the age of the countdown. So don't be fighting each other over chicken feed. That's what you're doing in South Africa in particular. The ulama fighting with each other. Sectarian conflicts over chicken feed. While this hugely important subject is so far away from them, it is unbelievable.
Okay, so let me tell you one more thing here before I play the rest of the video. I'm going to give you some recent updates about this Galilee Sea. The current situation of the sea, dear brothers and sisters, is that the Sea of Galilee, well known in Jewish, Christian and Islamic tradition, has swelled up in recent time because of the rain. According to reports in the Israeli media, again, Israeli media, they will always say good things about the Sea of Galilee. Why? Because they know if the Sea of Galilee is dried up, it is end of Israel. That's their understanding. Okay, this is not Islamic understanding, this is understanding of the Jew. The lake, also known as the Lake of Tiberias or Kinneret, rose to 209.905 meters below sea level in December 17, 2020, last year. Only happened last year, 2020. But because of heavy rainfall in the surrounding area, according to the Israeli media, the river Galilee Sea is swelling up right now. What is the most recent assessment we have about the Sea of Galilee? So this is what I want to focus on more and want all of you to understand. Very, very important. But even though the Sea of Galilee is getting rain and swelling up, according to the Israeli media, hundreds of miles to the northeast, the world's largest lake, this is the world's largest lake, is drying, according to new research done by Dutch scientists. This is done by Dutch scientists. If you rely on Israeli media to tell you the truth about Galilee Sea, you cannot trust them. They will never tell you the truth. They will always say the sea is doing good. It has a lot of water, enough water for culture, for cultivation, for agriculture, and for everything. We do not need to worry about it. But if you go there and find out, you will see the situation is totally different. But again, before I end, this is very, very important for all of us to understand. Drying up the Galilee Sea is not in itself enough for the end of time to happen. There are many other signs, the minor signs, major signs that will take place before the end of time, the actual end of time. When I say major sign, I don't mean those 10 major signs. Don't get me wrong. Major sign means major sign for the end of time. Okay, end of time, when it starts, there are 10 major signs. We all know that. So don't be fooled when somebody gives a lecture about, Galilee is drying up or Euphrates River is drying up, because you and I, dear sister, we need to understand, dig deep, understand it better at a different level, so that we are not being tricked by the Dajjal. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, like this video if you did, share this video, and inshallah I'll see you soon again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.